Jesus to the name, and thank you for your ministry. Anything you need, give us a holler.
Okay. Okay. Hi, I'm glad to be here. So, it's just great to meet all of you. So I'm Shannon Mitchell, and so my wife Meagan Mitchell might join me in a minute, but she's with our son Finn. So this is Finian, just turned 2. He loves buses, large vehicles, and Shaun the sheep are his favorite things right now. So, so both of us work with Crew. So it sounds like many of you know, but we'll share kind of an overall view of what we do, but then share some more details and stories of what's happening as well. I'm originally from Western Mass, so Lee, Mass, if you guys know that. And my wife's originally from Rhode Island, and so we're both New England natives serving here in New England, and so predominantly at the UMass campus, but we do hope to reach other campuses as well. I just want to share bookend a couple verses for this, and so Matthew 28, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you, and behold, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. So this is a calling for all of us to be making disciples, but we do want to share, because it's such an integral part of what we do with Crew, we want to be making disciples and making disciple makers, and so we want multiplying disciples who really know how to not only live out their faith, but to really be able to share it well in a clear, concise, and gracious manner. So we predominantly work at the UMass campus, but there are 18 campuses that we would love to be on. Some of them we have been on, but post-COVID, we're kind of trying to relaunch on some of those. I have a big hope of relaunch on some of the community colleges, hopefully this next year. But so we're predominantly at the UMass campus, which, there's so much that can be done there. So some of you guys might know, so there's tons of competition for the hearts and minds of students. And so some of you guys may have heard this statistic before, but Barna released a few years ago that Springfield area and kind of Western Mass was one of the most post-Christian places in the U.S. And so we experienced that on campus, perhaps even more so. I think with like 28,000 students, I think a couple years ago, we had calculated there was about 400 people really active in their faith on campus. And so that number will always change. But there's just such a big need on these campuses. God is doing big things on campus. We'll share some more stories as we go along. But we're just seeing just some great revival on campus. I think not only UMass, but across the region, we're finding that students are finding secularism is not the answer, and so they are turning to trying to see if there's something more, and a lot of people are coming to faith. So we want to reach, as Crew, we want to reach all 150 million college students worldwide, but our scope of our team is to reach all the 18 campuses, so from Greenfield to Springfield, all the way out to Berkshire County, Williams College. There's a hope to reach all of that. And so there's about 80,000 students in Western Massachusetts. But UMass has 28,000 of those. So a good third of that population is just at UMass. And so, the DNA of Crew. So how are we going to do that? We do win, build, send. So we want to win students to faith, build them up in their faith, and send them out. And so I can share more tools that we use, but we're always looking for new tools, new ways of reaching campus. We have a survey that perhaps when Rick has been here has maybe showed. It's called the Solarium, which is a picture survey that you're able to kind of in a intense way, really get into some very deep conversations. I've definitely had conversations which last an hour or 2 hours because you're really digging into where someone's at, and you're able to show them how Jesus can enter into where they're at. One of the ways that we've more recently been able to, or more recent strategies, is with Easter. We've been doing an art outreach, and so we will set up some art that's related to the resurrection and set that up in the campus center and strike up conversations throughout a couple days over the week. And so it's just like a new way to be able to kind of like engage on campus. And so, yeah. One student that I want to share about. So this is Troy. So Troy was a student, so he just graduated, but sharing about how he came to faith his freshman year. So he was from a like nominal Catholic background, and so I think growing up he would occasionally go to church, but through his teens kind of didn't go to church at all. He ended up just before he came to college, like the week before he came to college, his girlfriend broke up with him, and so he was really lonely his first week of school. And so one of the people that he had known from high school, who was in his dorm, had just gotten involved with us with the crew. And so he ended up getting invited to come to a bonfire. And so I think that bonfire might have been at Rick's house, but just at that bonfire, he was able to kind of quickly connect with community. And so he did not like immediately come to faith. It actually was a process of about 3 or 4 months before he ended up coming to faith. But he was able to really hear the gospel through some of the weekly meetings and through conversations. But he was also able to see the gospel lived out. I think his freshman year, he ended up like 5 or 6 nights a week, end up just like staying over with other crew students and hanging out with them. And so just cool to see how he had, come to faith and grown in community. And so, he continued to get built up. And like even this last year was just like solid leader, one of like the best leaders I've worked with, just having a huge heart for men. And wanted them to see them grow in vulnerability and grow in Christ. So, once we win students' faith, we want to be able to build them up. And so, we do a lot of hands-on discipleship, whether one-on-one or groups. We have a weekly meeting. But we also have, as here, conferences and retreats. I've been started calling them pilgrimages because it's often we're going to a specific location where people can engage with the church, engage with community, engage with Christ, and grow deeper. And so there's kind of 3 main, I'd say, pilgrimages or events throughout the year. And so this here is some of our fall retreat. And so during our fall getaway, we often have some students who have been checking stuff out. And so some of them are, Christian, just want to get involved. Some of them are like from a Christian background, but even trying to decide whether they want to follow Christ. And so usually about, 5 weeks in, we have the, fall getaway. And so I feel like it really answers the question, how do I want to invest my life on campus? And so we have a lot of community that gets built there. And so we usually have some men's and women's times that people really are able to open up and be vulnerable. And so I feel like that really jumpstarts their ability to engage in faith deeply with others. And so it's probably one of our biggest, I'd say, community building events there. And then one of the other ones we have, so this is the winter conference. And so for years we've done it down in Baltimore. They didn't have a New England or Northeast conference, but just this last year we had our first Northeast conference in New Haven. And so because we were just launching it, that we weren't sure how many people would show up, and I think our hope was 200 people, and that was going to be a win for us. But we ended up having 650 students go, and so people are on, they're just on fire. And so I think the winter conference really answers, like, they've been building community, but they're able to start looking outward. And so they start to see some of the opportunities of mission trips that they can go on. They start to cross-pollinate with other campuses. And so, yeah, it's campuses all the way from Maine all the way down to, New Haven, Connecticut. Although I think even at that one, we had some of the New York students coming as well. So, and so then, once they've been built up, we want to be able to send them out. And so kind of one of the third big events during the year is the spring break missions trip that we have. And so that's a space where a lot of students, like, it's their first time really sharing their faith and really getting a lot of practice with it. And so that's my story. That's kind of how I really kind of stuck around and got involved with Cru. And so I was involved with a student 2007 to 2009. And I was involved and connected. But yeah, during that conference my senior year, it was the first chance I really got to learn how to share my faith in a clear, concise way, graciously. And so I remember I had great conversations that whole week, but I remember in particular I ended up talking to two students who were from Texas. And so one guy, Justin, he had started checking out the church, but had never heard the gospel. And so I was able to walk through with him with the gospel there, and he ended up coming to faith. And so I ended up graduating, leaving campus, kind of taking what I had learned back to my home church out in Pittsfield. And then, after about like 2 years, so Rick Haupt ended up, who was the director at that point, called me up and asked me to help out drive because we ended up needing an extra car for the spring break trip. And so I was at that spring break trip again. And just that whole week, I felt like God was calling me to full-time ministry. And so I've been working with the Cru for the past 13 years. And so, we want to, I think also share, so the guy here on the left for you guys was one of the first students I worked with. And so it's just cool to see a student who had just come to faith. He came to faith through Lecrae. So he was really into rap and kind of felt like it gave him confidence. And then he heard Lecrae, who was good at rap but didn't swear. And so that made him want to check out what Christianity was about. And so he ended up coming to faith that summer. And by this spring break, he was learning how to be able to share his faith well. And so just cool to see how much growth can happen just in a year. And so, that's one of our summer trips. And then this is one of the other ones. And so this is the Yellowstone summer mission. And so we have a bunch of missions all over the world, but we kind of partner with two main ones in particular. And so Yellowstone is one, and then we have another in the Middle East. I had mentioned Troy earlier. Troy actually had gone on both of these trips, and this is actually a photo of him in that. But it's some of the best. So Yellowstone is some of the best relational evangelism training. So in Yellowstone, you have we usually bring 24 students out to Yellowstone, and they're working right there near Old Faithful. And you're learning how to share your faith with your coworkers, and so they get jobs within the hotel system. They learn the flop, so they learn how to make a bed with one go all that summer. But there's just a unique way of connecting there because when you're in Yellowstone, it takes an hour drive to get to the nearest town and 2 hours to get to the nearest city, and so you kind of have a captive audience. And so we end up having these bonfires where people will share their testimony, and you'll have something like 80-something people show up, and usually a couple people sharing their testimony. I remember, a couple years ago, we had, I think one of our last ones, we had a guy who ended up, he came in even as a seeker, wanted to get connected. He was still deciding whether he was following Christ, and came to faith that summer. And so he was able to share his testimony. Ended up sharing it was supposed to be a 10-minute testimony, 15-minute testimony. He ended up sharing a 45-minute testimony, and kept sharing about how he kept putting his faith in academics or sports and things like that, and how those kept failing him, and basically like fell to his knees at the end and said, like, guys, this is true. And the other testimony that night was just a very clear representation of what is the gospel. And so just cool what can happen around some of those fires. And so and just so, yeah, in terms of sending, yeah, we want to be able to send on short-term mission trips, but we also want people to be able to be sent and to be able to share their faith wherever they go. And so I had mentioned Troy. Troy, we had tried to get him to join us on staff, and he would have been great on staff, but he just really felt called to be able to share his faith within the field that he had learned. And so he's a chemical engineer, and he's just starting up. He's going to be working in a sub as a chemical engineer, and so wants to be able to share his faith there. And so it's just great to see people continue to be able to grow. And just thinking about like students who have come through our ministry who like are continuing to serve, continuing to grow. My wife reminded me that we just had a student who did do a year with Operations Christmas Child, working with them, James. And then I've just kind of been able to connect with 2 students that we have who are seeking to be pastors within New England. And so they're right now, I think, just finished seminary, and they're in their like residency with some of the churches in the area. And so just met with one of them this week, and so it's just great to see kind of this passion, this continuing growth from seeing them as freshmen to, really solidly in the Word and wanting to teach the Word. A little bit about kind of our specific roles. I might have a little bit of time for a Q&A at the end too, and I got a few more stories. But I've been working for 13 years on staff at UMass, and so I've worked across a couple different campuses. And so Meagan and I are team leaders, and so we seek to coach the students, but coach our staff team as well. And so we have a team of 7 altogether working to reach these campuses. And so we have 4 different movements on campus. So we have kind of our main crew movement, and then we have a group called EPIC, which reaches Asian American students. And so with Boston being the second biggest Chinatown, like there is tons of like people coming from there. And so I think that EPIC has a great ability to connect well with those who, often aren't from America. And there's kind of even potentially a language barrier there. And we do see a lot of students who, like through EPIC, come to faith after, being involved for a year, and they're just kind of connecting with the community. They are seeing the gospel lived out, and then they're hearing the gospel. And so that's another one. And then I was working a lot with the Bridges movement, which is an international student movement. And I don't know if any of you guys would know Pete and Betsy Baglow, but they've been serving for 30-something years in the Valley, mostly at UMass. And so they've been working a lot there. And so we have a lot of grad students. I'd say we have some from Africa, some from the Philippines that are really seeking to grow and be able to share their faith. But in many ways, that's one of the movements that we're able to have some of the most non-Christians kind of getting involved. And so we have a lot of like Hindus and Muslims that we've been able to share our faith with as well through that. And then, we have a group for varsity athletes. And so we've had some solid students come through that. But then, so this is our, fall retreat photo. And so just a little bit about, we have just a growing movement there. And so I'd say that like during COVID, we've kind of felt like a loss of like leadership. And so a lot of that leadership is starting to be rebuilt. And we do see more people coming to faith, more people wanting to grow in their faith. And so we have, we saw 9 students come to faith this last year, which is probably the most in a decade. And yeah, more than we see very often. But then we also have seen 56 students this year from New England come to faith. And so God is opening doors, not just at UMass, but across the region. And like I said, students are finding secularism is not the answer. And so we do feel like we felt a lot of opening to people coming to faith through that. And so, we have a reach of about 120 students that we're on some level directly connecting with, but a lot of those are connecting with students in their, students within their classes. And so I had a student, Koa, who recently got involved, and so it was fun to talk through with him. He had a friend from his one of his classes that he just wanted to share his faith with, and so he came from a culturally Jewish background, and so he's kind of continued to come out and ask questions and dig deep. But Koa just was asking me questions over the table, like, how do I get into a deeper spiritual conversation? He's kind of engaging a little bit, but how do you take that next step of faith? And so I don't know if you want to come up as well. So my wife is here, so just want her to be able to share how she got called to ministry. But we also had another student who just really lived out, evangelism and sharing the gospel on campus.
Yes, thank you. Yes, had to step out there for me to be with our 2-year-old for a minute. But so a little bit about me and my background, my story. I grew up in a Christian home. I'm from Rhode Island originally, so New England. And always knew the Lord, came to faith really early. And when I went to college out in Boston, I knew that I wanted to keep following the Lord and walk well with the Lord. And immediately found, there were thankfully a couple Christian groups on our campus, and got involved with Cru within the first week, I think. Showed up at a Bible study and just never left. And I'm really thankful that the Lord did that, because I don't know if I hadn't found such a close and quick community if I'd really have stuck with walking with the Lord well in college. But I did. And got involved immediately, stayed involved throughout my 4 years. Started leading Bible studies, and I think especially I really got to know how to share my faith. I got really, having grown up in the church, I knew I wanted to walk with Jesus, but having to share my faith and talk about it with others, I had experienced that. I knew what it was like. I'd seen others do it, but it felt like a whole other ballgame to figure out how to do it for myself with my classmates. And coming from a small Christian school throughout my high school years, going to a really big school where I think there's probably the same number of Christians that I knew throughout the whole campus versus my tiny Christian high school. And it was just very different. And so I was really thankful to have a community to be a part of. But I learned how to share my faith. And in my senior year, kind of was questioning if I should stay, if I should consider doing this full time, and sort of walked away thinking, all right, I want to graduate, go and work in my field and get a job. But didn't graduate with a job, so I ended up going on a summer mission with Cru to the Middle East, and loved it. I loved getting to talk about the gospel consistently with other college students. I loved getting to mentor and disciple younger students along with us on the trip, and came back knowing that I should really consider this full time, and so joined staff pretty much right thereafter. And have been on staff for about 11 years. 11 years, I just have to do the quick math, but 11 years now, and 4 of which, about to be 5, have been at UMass. So when I first joined at UMass a few years ago, historically when we look at scripture, and at least this has been how my experience in church communities, there's a ton of women who show up around Jesus because they know they're loved and cared for. And I've always been a part of churches where there's a lot of women around me. But when I first started with Cru here at UMass, because it was after the pandemic, the men's ministry was doing really well, and the women's ministry was really struggling. There were student women involved, but they were emotionally, mentally exhausted, I think mostly from the pandemic, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. And so when I first stepped in, I really had to sit down with them and really help figure out how to coach them and come alongside them to get them to a spot where they were healthy and able to talk about their faith with others. And so during I don't know if it was my first or second year, I sat down with a girl named Virginia, and she also grew up in a Christian home. I think I was hoping to sit down, see how she wanted to grow with the Lord. And when I asked her, hey, where do you want to grow? How do you want to be growing with God? Because I think there's always ways we can be growing with God. She just kind of looked at me and she's like, I think I'm okay. I think I'm all set. Which I walked away kind of being saddened of like, oh, I just know there's more that the Lord has for you in store here during your time in college. And so she was about to go on a study abroad trip. And study abroad, typically, we found that students don't walk closely with Jesus while studying abroad, just because they typically don't have strong community with them. They're often in places where it's hard to get into a church. But that was not her story. She ended up getting involved in a great church, a great community while she was studying abroad, came back and was just ready to talk with others about Jesus. She was ready to grow in her faith. Within a year, she actually started her own podcast called the Growing with God podcast. And so it was just really sweet to see how the Lord had moved and changed her throughout her time in college and the ways he met her. And so as she also was considering coming and joining with us as full-time staff, and the Lord called her elsewhere, and we're excited for that. But she was just sharing her faith left and right as a senior. She was someone that every time we met up, she would say, oh, I'm so sorry I'm late. I just came from having this great gospel conversation with a friend or with another student or with a freshman. And many of the students who came to the Lord last year, it was because she had initiated the gospel with them. So it's just really fun to see how not only are students coming to know Jesus, but it's this generation of students reaching this generation. They're the ones sharing their faith with others. So that's been really encouraging. And we're really excited for what's next. And yeah, trying to trust the Lord every day and try new things every day. But we're thankful to be here.
Yeah, and so I feel like this verse just like sums up how it felt like this last year and a half of praising God and having favor with all people, and the Lord added their number day by day, those who are being saved. And so as we take steps of faith, it's definitely like stuff that can only be answered by God working in hearts. And so I feel like this is, definitely something that I feel like I'm experiencing. So that's kind of a quick overview and a couple of stories of students. We'd love to answer. If anybody does have any questions, we'd love to answer, but we can also connect afterwards as well.
How do you get to, how do you start working on a campus? Do you have to get permission, or how does that work?
It does change from campus to campus. So state colleges versus, private is a little bit different. So some we've worked on where we don't have like an official status, but we're still able to work with the students there. I think Crew is not officially allowed on like Smith, for example, or Mount Holyoke, but we've worked with students through Epic where we have a Bible study there, but we're not able to reserve a space or something like that. And so we can still connect with them. Occasionally, we do have administrative issues. Oftentimes, I would say, finding a key student or potentially a key professor is a big way to do that. So two of the campuses that I know of has been through volunteers being launched, and so Westfield State is one of the others that's kind of in our scope, where we've had two. They're missionaries with a different missions organization, but the wife had worked with Crew 30, 40 years ago, and wanted to when she moved across the road from Westfield State, wanted to start something. And so they started with just kind of a Bible study in their house, and now they have status on campus. They have 25 students, I think, that are involved. I think even with the fall retreat, we saw, 5 come last year, and we saw 15 comes this year. They had 2 students go on summer mission. I think they have 5 students going on summer mission this year. And so, and then Mount Wachusett is kind of one of the other ones, which was launched from I think they used some digital surveys, but just having one key professor who wanted to launch there. So I think a key person is really what's most helpful. But occasionally we just do kind of what we call decoding campus. We'll just hit campus and just have a survey, ask a couple questions, and see if we can get connected to that key person. So
People of peace is what we often refer to them as, is who will help us find a way here on this campus. So it's a great question. Yeah. Oh,
We do have a website, umasscrew.com, which kind of has like the general overview. We've generally used a lot more social media for students, like that's where they tend to come in, but we do have a website, umasscrew.com. Yeah.
yeah, which has a good overview. But yeah, a lot of our ongoing connections are with students are they're using websites less and less. And we've actually, even this year, we've had to find new ways to communicate as some of our messaging platforms, most of them just aren't on it. And so, incoming freshmen, so it's constantly evolving. But social media, Instagram, we theoretically have a TikTok, but haven't really posted on it. So, and actually the Instagram right now is all pretty much student run too, which is really fun and exciting to see them take it over and do a fantastic job of sharing updates and scripture and encouragement there. So, yeah. So,
So I really haven't heard a lot about CREW. What does CREW stand for, like the word, or is it an acronym, or is it short for something?
Despite the fact that we love acronyms, it doesn't have an acronym. But it used to be it still is Campus Crusade for Christ International, and CREW was,
That's what I wondered.
yeah, so CREW was the nickname already. And I think they just found it hard to find a name. Like, there's so many other ministries to find a unique name, and it was already being used as a nickname, so.
yes, yeah, I think at the time, as the overall ministry grew, they were finding that like Campus Crusade for Christ International was actually we're doing a little bit more than just campus, even though we work with campus. So they wanted to find a new name for the U.S. And then also Crusade, thinking about getting on campuses. Crusade didn't have the best connotation for some campuses. And so we just wanted to make sure we weren't limiting access. And so we came up with a new name for the U.S. 15 years ago, as well as a
Something like
student.
that, yeah.
So it's also a good question. Yeah.
I don't know if this is a question or a comment. I'm someone who grew up in the church, this church, who very, very much strayed from the path. And everything was really bad for a really long time. And I recently refound my faith, and it's like the clouds parted and the sun shined through. And I was wondering if there's any place for a voice like mine in CREW to sort of share the other side of it and share their experience and have help them and or save them
Oh, yeah.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think we're trying to move more towards that. Yeah, I think we're trying to get more like connections, volunteers. We do have a weekly meeting that like sometimes we do have people come and give a testimony or share there. So yeah, we'd love to kind of connect afterwards, but
Yeah.
and occasionally we have like men's events or stuff like that where I think it's a little more common. We have an outside speaker, and so yeah.
Yeah, and we do have students often share. Every week at our weekly meeting, we'll have them share of like, here's how God has transformed my life, going from where I was to where I am now. But yeah, we don't often, other than staff and some outside speakers, we don't get to have as much as we'd like for them to have input from the community. They're all involved in churches, local churches, so I'm hoping they're connected there. But to get to hear other stories of and testimonies. We'd love for more of that for sure. But yeah, students are doing it with each other, which is powerful in its own way. But yes, it'd be great to have more people who are on the other side of school share that too. Other questions?
Okay, I could pray real quick. Pray a praise for how God is working. Lord, I do thank you for just this connection, Lord, and the ways that this church has partnered with CREW in the past, Lord. We do thank you that you are opening doors, Lord. You are changing hearts, Lord. And it is only you who can truly make heart change, Lord. We do thank you that you are the one that is adding the numbers. Lord, I pray that you just continue to work mightily, Lord, through this church, through the campus ministry, Lord, but just that we would see more people come to faith in New England. I pray this in your name. Amen.